Hello trainers, Ganeto here, and today we're diving together into Ultra League, but with a twist. We're gonna showcase the best teams that I can recommend to you with Charizard, because Charizard is the safest pick perhaps for the meta. Even against Swampert it has a lot of play when shields are up, only because it can still tank one Hydro Cannon if you can play this Pokemon correctly and with pretty good IVs, or it can just work under the shields and pressure with the Wing Attacks, the Dragon Claws, and eventually the Blast Burn to destroy the enemy even when the Blast Burn is resisted. So this line, the first one out of the total 4 that I'm gonna showcase today, is gonna do a lot of work against the enemy with its amazing pressuring ability, with Charizard up on the lead, able to destroy down the enemy with its moveset, which is gonna be on the entirety of this video. At the back, the Cobalion as our safe switch, which is a pretty solid choice, and the closer of the line is gonna be the Walrein. I like Walrein as my closer because it will give me the chance to destroy down the remaining flying type, which is kinda common. A lot of trainers tend to use something like a Dragonite or a Pidgeot at the back in order to destroy down their enemies, so your Walrein can definitely counter-attack that meta strategy. The safe switch of this line, the Cobalion, is gonna be in here, and I like this Pokemon a lot because of the Stone Edge and its ability to spam those Sacred Swords. With the Stone Edge you can still threat certain enemies, something like a Trevenant or whatever, so you can see that this team can still work pretty nicely around Trevenant, which is a top meta Pokemon and a Pokemon that we also showcased in the previous video. So with that said, I think it's time now to talk about our core breaker, which is gonna be the Deoxys up on the lead. Of course, Deoxys with that Rock Slide can definitely destroy down in one hit, I believe, the whole Charizard out of existence, while at the back it will for sure do super effective damage to the Walrein, either with the Rock Slide or the Thunderbolt. And against the Cobalion, well, it's kinda weird, but the counter damage is still gonna add up in damage, and of course we're not gonna be in a good position. Other than that, I think that Jellicent is a notable core breaker as well, but overall you're gonna be just fine with this team. You have a lot of play with your Charizard, you have a lot of play with your safe switches, and of course as a closer, Walrein is another safe pick that you can count on up, especially against fighting type, which can still destroy down with back-to-back Icicle Spears. We just talked about how notable as a core breaker Jellicent is, and that is not only because of Charizard, it is mainly because of its ability to go pretty rough on most threats and being a generalist in total. With Surf now it gets access to a much spammier moveset, while Shadow Ball is still there to destroy unsuspected opponents, especially that Trevenant of your opponent. I really like Jellicent in this meta. It can go pretty rough up against Giratinas and Cresselias, while it can destroy down other water types as well, something like a Walrein or a Swampert. It is gonna be there just for you in order to cover that weakness. So speaking of Walreins, you can see that the backline is kinda weak to it, so Jellicent can definitely protect the backline from that threat, while both Jellicent and Dragonite can protect the Charizard from the Swamperts. You can see that there is a really nice synergy here. You can always use your Charizard as the aggressive switch to draw out something like a Stunfisk, for example, so that your Dragon is gonna be on a much safer environment to sweep the entire team. But I think that with Superpower, even against a Stunfisk, you have high chances in order to destroy them down, even with your Dragonite. So this line is pretty solid. I like this ABB team style that it has, double flying at the back, but most likely you are gonna be super good up against those steel types as well, which is kinda uncommon for a flyer, and that's why I prefer Dragonite over Pidgeot as my second flyer for this line. As a core breaker here, we got the Registeel, mainly because of its ability to go with a Zap Cannon up against our Jellicent, and of course at the back the Zap Cannon can also hurt our backline, especially the Charizard being super effective. Against Dragonite, I believe the Dragonite can definitely tank one move, while the superpowers, even when you have the debuff from the first one, you're gonna be still in a very good spot, because Lock-ons are never gonna do more than one damage back at you. So Dragonite definitely an all-time closer for you to check out. For the next one, we have a Trevenant up on the lead, at the back the Charizard and the Registeel. So Charizard here is gonna work like an amazing safe switch for this line. I really like it in the meta, able to pressure a lot with those wing attacks and of course the Dragon Claws, while Blast Burn, even when resisted, it still does a lot of damage. So what you want to do with this line is to throw aggressively your Charizard most of the times in there so that you can draw the Swampert out of play, and your Registeel is gonna have a much better environment, sweeping the entire team out of play. This team might struggle a little bit against Charizard up on the lead or Talonflame, but still I believe that with Registeel as your closer, you still got the possibility to nuke them down out of existence with a pure Zap Cannon, which is pretty nice if you ask me. So yeah, this team works pretty nicely. Use your Charizard to aggressively draw out that Swampert so that you can finish it off with your Trevenant, get out of this battle with a lot of energy, and then your Trevenant will go crazy up against them, getting those shields, while your Registeel is gonna have the better and the best environment into sweeping the entire team. This team is gonna work pretty nicely, as I have already said about 5 times already, but the core breaker of this team is gonna be the one and only Obstagoon. Up in front, Obstagoon can have kind of a positive matchup against Trevenant, but at the back it is just gonna dominate when shields are up, and even with an Obstruct in play, well, it can simply destroy down that Registeel without shielding at all, because one Obstruct, it raises up its defense, and then can even tank one Focus Blast and still finish off that Registeel, which is pretty nice for the Obstagoon. Other than that, I think that this team will have no other weakness, and you're gonna be in a very good spot, mainly against the Swamperts, if you can play this team correctly with the aggressive switch on the Charizard. Time for the final one, trainers, and we're having the Charizard up on the lead once again, at the back the Virizion and the Cresselia as our safe switch. This line is super strong, but it's kinda frail with 2 out of the total 3 picks, because only Cresselia can tank the hits, while the other 2 might need those shields. However, I haven't found any weakness at all other than their less bulk than usual that Ultra League teams have, so I would really recommend you to use this team, but with a little bit of caution, because it will never be easy to tank moves with Charizard and Virizion, and trust me, when you have Virizion as your closer, sometimes you will need some shields in order to be much more useful than usual, especially up against a fire type Pokemon, because a lot of trainers might tend to have a Talonflame at the back, so that your Stone Edge is definitely gonna be needed. I do not recommend running Leaf Blade, you are still gonna be fine with Sacred Sword and Stone Edge, while for the Cresselia as a safe switch, if you throw it in there, well, they're gonna answer back with a Charizard or a Talonflame, so do not run Grass Knot as well. I believe that with Future Sight, you are gonna be just fine, and Moonblast of course as your primary charge attack. As a core breaker here, we got the Giratina, which makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because even against Charizard, which has Dragon Claws, it can still go up against it with those ancient powers if they have. At the back against the Virizion, it is kinda walling it down, but still it's not that bad if you have Stone Edge, while against Cresselia, the Moonblast can still hurt, while a Shadow Force or a Shadow Sneak can definitely destroy it down. However, we're looking at a core breaker that it's kinda situational. You saw that you either need the Dragon Claws or the Ancient Powers or the Shadow Force or the Shadow Sneak, so it's all up to the moveset that Giratina is gonna have, and of course they always need Shadow Claw if they want to be much more useful. So I think that definitely is gonna be a core breaker, that Giratina, but not that much of a bad one, because you can still survive and play around it for sure. So that is gonna be a wrap for today's video. I believe that Charizard is the safest pick of them all to use on the Ultra League, and I think that with those 4 teams you're gonna have the upper hand over your enemies, so good luck on your journey to the Legend Expert whatsoever, trainers. Thank you for watching, trainers. Just be sure to leave a huge like before you go, subscribe to the channel if you already haven't, and if you want to support even more, well, joining as a member can always help with that matter. Thank you once again, and I hope to see you all into the next one. Take care, trainers.